Hi, everyone. My name is Tammy Lind, and welcome to the Back to School Conference. I am a technology integration coach in Wisconsin, and I am here to talk to you about one of my absolute favorite Google resources, and that is Google Earth. Now, we're going to talk about digital literacy using Google Earth Voyager, but we are going to spend time looking at all things Google Earth today so that you have a good foundation before beginning in with Voyager. One of the things that I really want to make sure that we spend time talking about, though, is the idea of digital literacy. Digital literacy with our students is so important. And if we look at the definition of digital literacy, we see four really important key concepts that kids need to be able to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. Those four words are really important. And I believe that in any content area and any grade level, we can use Google Earth to address, find, evaluate, create, and communicating information with our students. One of the things I get asked all the time is, why would we use Google Earth for something like this? And my response is, why not? Google Earth is a fantastic resource. The images are just astounding, and there is so much high quality, vetted information the kids can get to. I believe that we can have kids find and evaluate information using the Voyager stories, and they can create and communicate information using the project part of Earth. And we're going to get to that. When we get into Google Earth, there's some things that I just want to make sure that you have in this slideshow. This slideshow we are not going to spend time in. The last thing you want me to do is lecture you in a slideshow about Google Earth. We're going to be looking at Google Earth in a hands-on look. So this slideshow really is for you to go back to on your own time if you need to review anything that we did. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hop into Google Earth. And we are going to, just to get there, you go to earth.google.com. And like I said, we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the layout of Earth so that you can feel comfortable moving around in it. When you come into Google Earth, you will see a very familiar, what I hope is a very familiar look. And so when we look here, I can zoom in and I can zoom out to my globe. If you notice around the outside, and I'm going to move my globe very slowly, and you'll see I also have the stars and the galaxies moving. So if I look there, of course I had to say galaxies because, Star Wars and all. We have our Milky Way that you can see. Give that a try. The kids love that part. But this is Google Earth. This is what you're looking at. Again, I can zoom in, I can zoom out. One of the things that I want you to make sure that you can do is if you get a little bit lost, you have additional controls down here at the bottom. So when you click on that, that will turn your globe right so that you can see it with north facing up. Okay? Down the left-hand side in Earth, we're going to look at the most important features of Earth. We're not going to get into everything, but we are going to look at the most important features. We have our search tool, and we'll come back to that. We're absolutely going to come back to the Voyager stories. That's going to be the majority of what we spend our time on. We have this fantastic thing called I'm Feeling Lucky, and that's really what it's called. I'm Feeling Lucky. And when you click on it, what it does is I'm Feeling Lucky drops you anywhere in the globe. So here I go. I'm zooming in now to Vietnam. I know I'm going into Vietnam. I have my little information card. That's what this is called, the information card. If I want to go somewhere else, I just hit the I'm Feeling Lucky again, and we go to a brand new spot. So now we're going to head over to India. Here we go. You can see the globe turning. I love the fact that as kids move around Google Earth, the globe moves because our kids don't have, many kids, not all of them, many kids don't have that sense of the Earth and our place on it. So I'll hit it one more time here. And now we're heading up to Germany. So here we go, and we'll zoom in. The information card is quite helpful if you want to talk to your kids about where they're going. I also have had a teacher use this particular resource as a journaling tool, talking about what they might see if they visited this place in the world and asking questions and some curiosities about that. So that's the I'm Feeling Lucky tool. The project tool we're going to come back to. And I'm going to skip down to the measurement tool. And that's at the bottom. A lot of times I get asked, well, I teach math. How could I possibly use Google Earth? There are so many ways you could use Google Earth. I'm going to use the measurement tool, and I'm going to do a very, very generic measurement of my state. So here I am, I'm in Wisconsin. I'm going to click on my measurement tool, and you'll notice that my pointer changes. So I'm going to click over here, kind of on the border. We're going to do a generic border down here. We're going to come down to where I am in Milwaukee, down here, across, and back up. There we go. Not the greatest measurement, but close enough for what we're doing. And you can see right here, I have my perimeter and my area already calculated for me. And as I move this, you will see the perimeter and the area will move as well. What a fantastic way to teach our kids perimeter and area, two very difficult concepts, in a real world situation. I can also change the units of measure if I'd like to. And then I can also copy that information if I want to put into a Google Doc, or if I wanted to turn it into Google Classroom, I could do it right from here. And again, you can change out the shape that you wanted to study. So if you're working on various shapes, mathematical shapes, you can do that in Earth as well. So that's the measurement tool. That's the one that sits right down here at the bottom left-hand corner. When I click that again, my measurement tools will go away. One of the other things that I want to show you before we get into the Voyager stories is the map style. Now, right now, you'll notice I have the state names, and I can go, let's hop on over to Europe for a minute. There we go. I have the country names here, and I can zoom in, and as I zoom, I get a little bit more information, some more borders you can see here, a few cities that I might, and towns that I might get into. But watch my map as I change. Hang on, let me zoom out just a little bit more. Sometimes you get really lost in Earth, and you have to zoom out to kind of get your bearings. So I'm going to zoom out just a touch. There we go. When I go down to the hamburger menu, which is there, and I click on the map style, I can actually turn all borders and labels off. This is a great way to have kids study landforms and also to kind of figure out where they are in the globe. That's the borders and the labels. That's what I had turned on before. If I click on everything, I'm going to scroll in here. We'll go right into the UK. Here we go. There we are. And if I scroll out, there we go. Now we'll get into the UK here. As I scroll out, I get more and more information. This is a great way to use the map, but if you're using it with littles, you've got to keep in mind that it gets pretty cluttered pretty quickly. And so if we zoom in, you'll see I'll get even more as I get in there. So I'm going to go back to the exploration. I like that. That just keeps major roads highlighted, major cities highlighted. Or again, you can also go to the clean version as well. Okay. All right. So we are going to leave England and we are going to leave the UK, and here we go. We'll go back. Here we are. I'm going to get rid of my map style, and I'm going to go up to the Voyager stories. Okay, here we go. We're going to get into Google Earth Voyager, and this is the navigation wheel here, and I'm going to lose you from now on. So this is one of my all-time favorite resources right now. These are high-quality units, for lack of a better word, that have been partnered with Google and shared with Google. So we have one from explore.org. We have the National Park System. We have ones from PBS. We have ones from NASA. There are so many high-quality pieces of information that are shared to Google in Voyager. When you first come to Voyager, the top highlighted bunch that you're going to see typically reflect what's happening on a global scale. So we have the Paralympic Games. We have the beginning, back to school. So we have one called This is School. As we scroll down, though, we see our topics. These are the main topics in Voyager, and these are the ones that I want you to be really aware of. So I'm going to actually start with a few on education, and here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to highlight anywhere from 2 to 3 voyages in some of the topics that we have here. And then we're going to talk about how we can have students create their own voyage or their own project. So I'm going to click on education. And again, we always talk about how do we get to those math teachers? Well, here we are, the geometry of sustainable architecture. It is a fantastic voyage. In fact, let's just click on it and look at it because it's so good. So when you get into a voyage, this is how it looks. You typically have a cover page, and then you click on Let's Go. And what that does is that takes you to a place in the world. And if you can see right here, we're headed to Zimbabwe. So I'm going to actually move myself up here, and I'm going to make myself a bit smaller. And there we are. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, this is where you get to see how many pages are in your voyage. So right now, this particular one, there are 4 pages or 4 stops on my trip. So I'm coming to New York City now in the US. And then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go to the next one. Now we're headed back to China. I have my information card in each part. That's important to remember is the information card. So I'm going to hop out of this and I'm going to click on the Voyager wheel again. I'm still in education. And as I scroll through here, I'm going to go nice and slow so that you can see some of them. There's one on the Underground Railroad. We have one all about poetry, a global look at poetry. The This Is School one we're going to come back to. If you teach littles, and by littles I mean 4K, 5K, or 1, this Reading the ABCs from Space is a blast. Okay, we're just going to have to click into it. So here we go. Reading the ABCs from Space, and I'm only going to show you one letter. But I think, how fun is this? I'm going to go to the letter H, which is right here. And I want to say to my kids, my littles, okay, littles, find the letter H. Do you see the letter H in our world? And I would have them come up and trace it. I would have them write it down. There are all sorts of things that you can do with this. So this is called Reading the ABCs from Space. Again, from NASA, which I think is so neat for our kids. I'm just going to continue scrolling so that you can get an idea of what's here. For those of us that live on the Great Lakes, the Blue Gold is fantastic. It's such a good resource. If you've ever been to Australia, the Uluru voyage is fantastic. There's a Lewis and Clark one. I'm going to click into this one. This is done by PBS. And what I want to show you here is the layout of a voyage and how to navigate it with your kids. As we come in to our voyage here, let me go to my next page. Hang on one second. There we go. As we come in, you see that I have 2 little icons right here. What that shows me is that there are images related to this stop. So right now we're in Iowa. So there are images related to this stop in my voyage. Okay? And we can go through here some more images. So I'm going to go back out of Lewis and Clark. And I'm just going to keep scrolling just a little bit so that you can see the other ones. There's a dinosaur-related voyage. There's a Jane Goodall-related voyage. These are so powerful for our kids, and they are high quality. Remember, we're talking about finding and evaluating information. High quality resources here. So I'm going to click back up. We're going to go to the This Is School because we are doing a back to school event right now, and I want to show you this one. What I love about the This Is School, especially for our youngers, I think this is such a great compare and contrast resource. So we're going to go in. You can see right here, we're in Chennai, India. And as I click and drag, I get the image of the school and the classroom. There are so many things that are similar, like there's some tangrams back there, so many things that are similar to my school in the US, and so many things that are different. What a great conversation tool for our kids. I'm going to go to the next one. Now, this may be interesting depending on where you live. I live in the city of Milwaukee. We don't have mountains. And so for me, this is a fantastic way to have kids get engaged with their learning. As I click and drag and look out the door of the school, I love talking to kids about this view. This view is very different than the view outside our door, outside our window. And so this is actually in Nepal. And you'll see there are 8 stops right here that we're looking at in this particular journey. We'll go one more. And so this one now is taking us to Indonesia. Again, you have your information card, which is really, really important. And then you also have your location and you get dropped into Street View where you can click and drag. All right, I'm going to go back. I can scroll out here if I want. Just because I came out doesn't mean I have to leave the voyage. But I'm going to head back to the list of voyages. So those are a few that are listed in the education topic. Remember, these are our topics here. I'm going to go ahead and I want to show you the games. And I think this is so fun and quite interesting. These games are vetted and high quality images, and you'll see in a minute, sounds. And I think it is so fun. I have to scroll down and just let you know, depending on your age, there is actually a Carmen Sandiego game, which I think is super fun. So I'm going to scroll up to this one. This is a relatively new one. This is about animal calls, and I think it's so fun and funny. So I'm going to hit let's go. Now, I have a lot of teachers that use these as a brain break for kids, which I think is so smart. You know, when kids just need that time to decompress, this is a great way to have them do it. And we can play animal sounds, which is always fun. So I'm going to guess this is the horse, and I'm correct, and now look what's going to happen. So I'm in Italy, and I'm looking at these wild horses. And I can scroll around, and again, talking about ways that things are similar and ways that things may look different. So I'm going to go to the next one, and then we'll stop after this one. This one I think is hilarious. If you really want to get your kids' attention, play this game and play this sound. And have them try to guess what it is. I'm going to guess a yak just because it's fun, and you can see what happens when you're wrong. So it's a camel, no big deal. It still takes you in to look at the camel. So it'll drop us in right next to them. And there they are. I can zoom if I want to. I can also see where they're headed and zoom back out if I want to here. All right, so I'm going to go back to the photosphere, back to my Voyager tool here. The nature resources are fantastic. There's a time lapse where you can look at population density as it moves across different areas of the country and of the world. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up a little bit to this urban expansion. And what that's going to do is it's going to show me growth in Las Vegas right now. And here's my time that it's moving. Watch my watch my map right here. As my timeline is moving, you can see the population is changing. What a great resource to talk to kids about why that might be happening. Why is it moving this way and not the other way? And then, of course, you also have your information card. I can go to my next one, and that's going to take me to Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm going to keep going one more, though. Here we are in Seoul, South Korea, and this is quite interesting to watch. As the population now moves, you'll see it render, and now you'll see the population moving and expanding over time. I think that's such a powerful real-life view of the world and how the world is changing. That's in nature. There's a whole bunch of them in nature. Many are about global warming and climate change. Many have to do with animals, which I know in first and second grade. There's some standards, quite a few standards that have to do with animals. There's landforms you can look at, which again I know is a standard. There's also a lot about national forests, which I believe we do in about fourth grade in the States. So that's in the nature part of Voyager Stories. I want to just show you the layers here. And that's the time lapse that we looked at a little bit before, and the glacier coverage that we saw before. You can also get a live look of the temperature of the sea surface right now, which I think is just such a great, and I've said this a whole bunch of times already, this is such a great real life example for our kids of what they're learning in schools. So I just clicked into a tour of Japan. So it's going to take us to Japan. You can see all the points that I'm going to study here. And let's see, if I want to go ahead and I want to visit, let's go to Kyoto. So I'm going to head to Kyoto. I've got my information card here. And now I'm in a 360 view of one of the overlooks in Kyoto. I can hit the next one, and here we are. Okay. Again, the information card and the table of contents for some of these is so important. This is the table of contents here. I'm going to go back to Voyage, and you can see the street view. These are all actual street views of these particular locations that you're looking at. So I'll bring us into Egypt. And we can go to the Great Pyramid if we want. I get my information card, and now here we go. All right. So now we are at the street view of the Great Pyramid. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to zoom out and come back to my Voyager homepage. As we wrap up talking about the Voyager stories, I want us to really come back to the fact that we are finding and evaluating information. This is a fantastic way to work with our kids on doing that. We're going to get to the create and the communicate part next, but I want you to pause the video here if you can for about 10 or 15 minutes and just look through these voyages. Go into culture and take a look at all of these. Go into different areas that reach the kids that you work with and think about how they can find and evaluate information from our Voyager stories. So go ahead and pause the video here. And when you come back, we're going to get into how to create our own. Okay, so we have gone through the Voyager stories. You can see, I hope that you took the 10 to 15 minutes, even longer, to look through them and really make that connection to your content. We're going to move on now to this thing right here, and this is called projects. And the easiest way to understand projects is you're building your own Voyager story. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on projects. And a couple things that I want you to notice right away is you have the list of projects that you have here. You have the option to click on new project. And when I click on that, you have the option to create one in Drive. Now, I want you to think about, what does that mean? If you can put it into Drive, what else can you do with it? You can collaborate on it. You can share it. You can back it up. Use the Drive option here in order to have our kids collaborate. Have kids collaborate and create their own Voyager story. I would love to see us using this resource as the new presentation tool, as the new slide deck that they're going to use to present. I challenge us to do that. All right, so here I am. I'm going to go ahead and I have the cool national parks already created. Very clever name. And what you'll notice is, there we go. What you'll notice is I have the places here and I have the feature. We're going to talk about that in a second. You'll notice that it's auto-saved. I do hope that this looks familiar. That should look like the way that you share a document. You'll notice it'll come up. There we go. You also have the ability then to trash it here. And then it talks a little bit about a KML file. That is the original Google Earth file format. So that's what that means when you see that. All right, we're going to keep this at the very basic level of creating the voyage. And this is what we have. Now, when I click on New Feature, I get the opportunity to do a full screen slide, which we'll get to in a minute. or search to add a place. I can draw a line or shape. Maybe I want to show how far it is from New York to London. I can draw that line and I can show that as well. I'm going to click off and just show you. So this right here is a full screen page. And then these, if you look at the icons, these are places that I put in here. Okay. So I'm going to present right now. And what I hope is that when you look at this, this looks familiar. This should look like a Voyager tour, a Voyager story. Here's the difference. That's my picture. I took that picture. Here's the other difference. When I click the table of contents, this is my content. I chose the order. I chose the points of interest. So I hope that you're starting to see we have done the find and evaluate. Now we are creating and communicating information. So I'm going to go to my next page here and look what it's going to do. It's going to take me in down to Acadia National Park. That was the first park that I put in my tour. And I have an image here. I'm going to go to the next one. Now we're going to travel down to Biscayne. We're headed down to Florida, somewhere warm. Here we go. And as we scroll in, I decided how far I wanted to zoom in. I also wrote this text, and that's me. I know I need my roots done, but that's okay. That's me, scuba diving. Think about this for our kids. How personalized can we get it when they can take their story and layer it into Google Earth? And just as an aside, this is also my own picture as well. So I love the idea that we can take what we're doing in the classroom and have kids tell their story. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip to the Acadia National Park because I just want to show you one quick thing here as we get, not Acadia, I apologize. The one thing that I want to show you here is Denali. Sorry about that. When you come into Denali, you're going to see I have a very unique sort of view over Denali. You'll see my globe is turning, and now I can see Alaska here. I have the peak of Denali, and I can see the valley and the river in here as well. I chose that view, okay? I also chose the text and everything else that went with it. So I hope that you're starting to see just how personalized this can be. So I'm going to go back. Here are my places. I can click and drag. I'm going to move them around a little bit. I can move Denali up. I can move it down, however I want to do that. And I can also edit it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and show you how to start a new project, but then I'm going to use my National Park one to show how to add content. So I'm going to go back. When I click New Project, Create Project in Google Drive, and here it is. This is it. That's all we do. I start building by adding new features. I'm going to go back because I want to allow you the opportunity to see what it looks like with content already in. Okay, so now we're back to the cool national parks one that I created. These are my places, again, and I can go ahead and if I want to, I can add a new feature from here. What I want to show you, though, is how we can edit one. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Acadia. When I click the Edit button, this is what I have. I have the ability to add up to 25 images here. I can also add text. So if I want to say this is Acadia, I could do that and add that to my page if I wanted to. Down here, I can change what pin that I want to have in. If you watch my pin up right here, I can change the color. There we go. Now, the information box right here, you'll see some editing features, but I'm going to recommend if you have littles, let them edit it in a Google Doc and then have them copy and paste. This is not a lot of space for them to be editing and to be thinking about spelling and, adding bold and italicized text. So you have the ability to do that. I would also encourage you, depending on the age of your kids, to just close that last part up that talks about longitude and latitude so that they don't play around with that piece, and know that you can collapse that up. All right, I'm going to go back and I want to show you what that will look like with a new feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click new feature and I'm going to say search to add. And let's say that I would like to add the, I don't know, we'll say the Golden Gate. Oops. There we go, the Golden Gate Bridge. We'll go ahead and add that piece. Here we go. It's going to take me over there. And we could add the park by the Golden Gate if we wanted to do that. But here I am with the Golden Gate Bridge, and I can move any place that I want to move. I could actually zoom into the Golden Gate if I wanted to. I could change this to Golden Gate Park. So I'm going to actually go ahead and say Golden Gate Park. And it'll take me now. It should take me over there. There we go. It's going to leave me at the bridge, and that's okay. I'm going to zoom out. We'll go over here. There we go. Now, from here, let's say that this is the spot that I wanted to have in my project. I can go ahead and hit add to project, and it's going to put it in Cool National Parks. I can change the title if I want to, and then I can click save. So here it is. Now, watch what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and click into this right down here. And I want to show you, this is really important. Right now, I could use Google's images, I could use Google's text, I could do that if I wanted to. I want my kids to add their own text at least, and most likely their own images. So I'm going to hit replace, and that's when you have the same boxes and options that I had. So I can go ahead and click here, and I can type in Golden Gate Bridge. And here it is. So if I want to select this picture, and I can add more than one if I want to. Or you'll also notice, I'm going to click this picture again. I can put my own pictures in. I could get them from Google Drive, or I can upload them if I have my own that I wanted to add. I love that feature. Again, that personalization of creating and communicating information. And here it is. So I can type my information, the golden, and yes, my computer is talking.
Hey.
It's we'll say suspension bridge in here.
Suspension.
We have the option to put that in. Again, if you have littles or youngers, or if you have older kids that have fine motor issues, let them do that in a Google Doc and just copy and paste. And this will automatically add to your story. I'm going to go ahead and change that. Let's make that purple. There we go. So now my little icon is purple. Watch what else I can do, and this is important. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come to the end of the Golden Gate Bridge. Here we are, the Golden Gate Bridge Welcome Center. And from here, let me move my picture up. I want to show this to you. From here, we can go ahead and we can drag and turn. I'm going to turn my globe. All I'm doing is I'm holding the control key down and I'm holding my mouse key or my trackpad key and moving. So I want this view of the Golden Gate. So now I see the whole bridge and I see both sides. When you're in Voyager and when you're in projects, you're going to click capture this view. This now becomes, when the project comes into the Golden Gate Bridge, you will see that this now becomes the view. So I'm going to hit preview presentation. And here's what the Golden Gate Bridge view is going to look like. Let's go back and let's look at how that's going to look when we go from Arches National Park into Golden Gate. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to click my table of contents and go to Arches National Park. It's going to take me back across. And let's watch how it zooms into Golden Gate now. So I'm going to go to my arrow, and here we come. We're headed back out west. What it should do is it should rotate it just to that view. There you go. That's what we want to have. That's that personalization piece for our kids. We want them to find and evaluate information. We want them to create and communicate information using Google Earth. So I'm going to go back here and we're going to wrap it up with just saying that when they are finished, they can either present, which I had students in that were attending a virtual academy last year, do full presentations in Google Earth, and it was fantastic. Or we can have them share it with you if you would prefer to have them turn it in that way. Think about that. They could share it in Google Classroom. They could share the link with others. They could collaborate with their classmates if they wanted to do that. I'm going to click the back arrow, and that's going to take me back to my whole list of projects that I have. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to come back to my slide deck, and I just want to encourage you. I'm going to really encourage and challenge you. If you have a great idea for using Google Earth, Voyager Stories, or the projects with your kids, I challenge you to add that to Twitter with the hashtag back to school or the hashtag ShakeUpLearning so that we can see it. Let's start that conversation for how we can make digital literacy an important part of our students' daily learning. So I want to wrap it up. My communication information is here. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And I want to also just take a minute to let you know that if you are interested in working with any of us from the Shake Up Learning team, I have the pleasure and the honor of working with these people. I'm so fortunate. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Casey, you can see her there. She is the Shake Up Learning, the face of Shake Up Learning. And so please reach out to the team. I would love to come and work with your teachers or your kids on Google Earth or anything related to Google Geo tools. There are so many great topics that people on this slide could help you with. So don't hesitate to reach out. With that, I thank you. I hope you have a great school year. I know we can do it. I thank you for what you're doing for your kids. Thank you very much.